The 12th cultural difference between China and America is the expectation of taking care of your parents. Here in China, the expectation is for the children to take care of their own parents as they age. Whereas in the United States, it's a little bit different. There are some children that do take care of their parents, but what happens is a lot of times those parents will move into what we would call old folks' homes or retirement homes where there is actually a staff that takes care of them. Doesn't mean Americans don't love their parents, it's just the way the society has worked for a long time. But that's the 12th cultural difference between China and the United States. The 13th cultural difference between the United States and China is wearing a mask, which has lately been a very highly debated topic in the United States. Now, I've noticed in China and in all of Asia that wearing a mask is acceptable, and many people do that just because of the pure number of people that live here and that they want to protect themselves from getting sick or perhaps pollution. So people here in China wear their mask. Even before the virus broke out, people would wear their mask. Whereas in the United States, mask is really only reserved for medical personnel. And to be asked to wear a mask or required to wear a mask makes people uncomfortable in the United States. I like it because I know it protects me. Cultural differences between the United States and China. Number 14, we're going to talk about patient privacy when you're visiting with a doctor. Very different in the United States. When you go to see a doctor in the United States, you actually get your own private room. Typically in a doctor's office, they may have 15, 20, maybe even 30 different separate patient rooms where the doctors make their rounds and visit with each patient individually. Now, when they come in, they shut the door. Sometimes they lock it to make sure that your privacy is protected. And they don't talk about your private matters with other individuals unless it's necessary, like perhaps the nurse or maybe another doctor. Also, you don't have to worry about other people coming into the exam room. I've experienced here in China when I've visited with the doctor, often Chinese people will come into the doctor's office and ask them questions while they're asking me questions. So it can be a little frustrating sometimes, but that is a big difference between the United States and China is the patient privacy. Patient privacy in the United States is very important. The 15th cultural difference between the United States and China are bathrooms, toilets. We're not supposed to talk about that stuff, but I'm going to anyways. In China, you use what we call squatty potties. You do have Western toilets, which are the toilets that we have in the United States. But in China, it is pretty much squatty potties, which are kind of difficult for Westerners, Americans to use because they never use them. You never see squatty potties in America. They're all Western toilets where you can comfortably sit down. Now, I know it's probably a subject we really don't want to talk about, but it's important to know if you go to the United States, you're not going to find a squatty potty in the United States. Just Western toilets. The 16th cultural difference between the United States and China is in America, we love cold drinks, whether it's cold Coca-Cola, ice cold Coca-Cola, or ice cold beer. We like ice in our water. In China, not so much so. There is some ice. There are some ice drinks, and if you ask for it, they'll give it to you. But for the most part, Chinese like warm or hot stuff, like warm water or hot tea. If you go to America, yeah, you can get hot water, you can get warm tea, hot tea, that kind of stuff. But when you go to a restaurant, you can expect the server to give you a nice big cup of ice cold water. The 17th cultural difference between the United States and China is the preferred beverage in the morning. In the United States, we love our coffee. I love coffee. I drink about 3 or 4 cups of it every single morning. I love it. Hot coffee is just so good. It gets you going. It really gets you going. Whereas in China, the preferred beverage in the morning is tea. Actually, the preferred beverage during the entire day is tea. Chinese love their tea, and that's okay. It's really good for the body. It's really good for the body. So is coffee. But if you go to the United States, There's a Starbucks coffee shop just about everywhere that you can imagine. So expect that when that happens. My favorite coffee? Jiao Tang Machidor, caramel macchiato. So good. The 18th cultural difference between the United States and China are clothes dryers. If you go to the United States, if you rent an apartment, if you buy a house, you're going to have to get a clothes dryer to dry your clothes, makes them nice and soft and dries them really fast. Whereas in China, especially Chongqing, they don't use clothes dryers. They take their clothes out of the washer, they hang them up, and they put them out on the patio to dry. In Chongqing, it takes a while because it's so humid here. It takes like 3 months to get some socks dry. I don't know why. I want to buy a dryer, but I can't find a dryer here in China. But that is definitely one of the cultural differences between the United States and China are clothes dryers. We love our clothes dryers in America. The 19th cultural difference between the United States and China is education and the amount of time that kids spend in school. In the United States, at about 3 o'clock, 3:30, they'll get out, and a lot of kids will go to sports activities like playing football, playing basketball, swimming, things of that nature. Some of them will go straight home. If they're not involved in sports, they'll go straight home and hang out a little bit. Sometimes they'll go over to friend's house and socialize. You will find in America, sports and socializing is very important, and they spend more time after school doing that. Now, of course, they do their homework, and that's usually later at night, maybe around 7:30 or 8 o'clock. But they tend to socialize more than the Chinese students. Chinese students, 3 o'clock rolls around, 3:30 rolls around. They'll have a little bit of break, but I see often, because I'm a teacher here at Shindong Fong, I will see students rolling in around 4:30, 5 o'clock to learn and hone their skills in English or math or sciences. So the children here in China go to school a lot longer than they do in the United States. The 20th cultural difference between the United States and China are air conditionings. In the United States, we love our air conditionings just like we love our coffee and our sweets. But in America, air conditioning is very important. When I lived in America, during the summer, I would put my air conditioning on about 70 degrees, 71 degrees Fahrenheit. That's another thing that's different, is we use Fahrenheit as opposed to Celsius. But in Celsius, that might be around 21, 22 degrees Celsius. We don't like to get hot. I don't like to get hot. It's just uncomfortable. You get sticky and you don't sleep well. At least I don't sleep well. Whereas in China, it's like they use the air conditioning only when it's really, really necessary. So that is definitely a big cultural difference between the United States. So if you go to the United States and you go into an office building or somebody's home, don't be surprised if it's a little cool during the summer, because we like our AC.